Hello, my name is Stine Johansen, and I'm happy to present our paper Characterizing Soundscape Research in Human-Computer Interaction on behalf of my co-authors Niels van Berkel and Jonas Fritsch and myself. This research was prompted by continuous personal experiences of working within the area of soundscape research, noticing a common trend of an unclear use of the term soundscape. Soundscape research fits into a broader area of sound and sound design in HCI. Early steps within this area were taken by, among others, Bill Gaber, whose seminal paper on using auditory icons to convey information has been well cited. Within the most recent decade, the emergence of sonic interaction design as a particular subdiscipline was prompted to investigate sound beyond merely signaling functions in interaction. Sonic interaction design highlights the importance of designing for embodied and multimodal experiences. Building on this, participatory techniques have also been developed to aid designers in using sound in novel ways. In parallel to new technological possibilities for sound-driven experiences, research on soundscape in HCI has also expanded, for example by Hayes et al., who investigate the creation of personal soundscapes through different types of audio technologies. However, the use of the term is still unclear. Soundscape research has a broad multidisciplinary history. Soundscape research today, both within and beyond HCI, is heavily anchored in the World Soundscape Project. This project was established in the 1960s by, among others, Schaefer and Tro. Schaefer in particular is often attributed for his definition of soundscape, which draws on the features of landscapes. He also wrote on soundscapes as a phenomenon of the mind created by music. More recently, Schaefer's definition has been criticized for being vague, which leads to methodological disagreements. Furthermore, Kellman has pointed out that the ideologies behind Schaefer's work is often overlooked by current research. Based on this, Brown et al. Have provided further precision of the term by defining it as something which exists through human perception of acoustic environments. From their work, an ISO standard has now been published which emphasizes soundscape as a perceptual construct. Despite this research effort to form a foundation for soundscape research in a broad spectrum of domains, this has not yet found its way to HCI research. In this paper, we argue for the necessity and relevance of relying on more common conceptualizations. Therefore, in our study, we aim to investigate how soundscape is conceptualized in HCI research papers and what this is based on, either through prior research or through definitions by the authors. We therefore included conferences that are either sponsored or co-sponsored by the ACM SIGCHI. 23 conferences in total were included. Searching for the term soundscape resulted in 416 papers. We screened these papers for any that only used soundscape in relation to related work or where the term only appeared in the name of a product, for example Microsoft's Soundscape. This resulted in 235 papers which were analyzed in depth. As can be seen in this graph, the number of papers using the term is steadily increasing, highlighting the importance of creating common ground further. This table shows an overview of the collected data from each paper. We search for references to previous soundscape research and definitions, whether or not authors provided their own definition, how they documented a soundscape, if the soundscape was modifiable through sensor input, and which words were typically associated with soundscape. We also investigated what supplementary material authors shared. In the following, I will present our findings, which relate to 1. The fact that very few rely on a definition, 2. That there are 2 main conceptualizations of soundscape, 3. That soundscape is applied to a wide spectrum of research, 4. That few researchers document the acoustic environment they are studying, and 5. That few share supplementary material to their study. First, we found that most papers do not rely on either a definition from prior research nor on a definition formulated by the authors themselves. 15 papers refer to a definition from prior research, most of these refer to Schaefer. As we expected, this leads to many different applications of the term. 16 papers offer their own definition of a soundscape or provide an example. These 31 papers can be broadly categorized into 3 ways of using the term: as a digital overlay to the physical world, as an auditory or acoustic environment that is either real or virtual, and as a composition made of either a combination of natural and synthetic sounds or a mix of natural sounds. But what about the remaining papers where no definition was given? We analyzed all 235 papers to make clear how they used the term soundscape, and based on this, we distinguish between two main categories: papers that refer to a soundscape as an acoustic environment, and papers that refer to soundscape as a composition. Each main category is further distinguished in 3 subcategories, as can be seen in this table. The first subcategory within acoustic environments, real world, refers to a soundscape as a real acoustic environment. For the subcategory simulated with speakers, a real acoustic environment has either been recorded or composed with the purpose of simulating it in other settings. Finally, within the third subcategory for virtual reality applications, the creation of soundscapes is either done by mimicking the spatial properties of real environments or by playing isolated audio sources from perceptually different directions. For augmented reality applications, digital layers of sound are added to the existing acoustic environments. The other main category is compositions. For the first subcategory, musical or ambient, soundscapes consist of digitally created sound either composed before users engage with it or composed by users as part of a study. The second subcategory mix of real-world recordings includes 27 papers where soundscape is perceived as a mix or a composition of real-world recordings. The final subcategory, mix of real-world and digital sounds, includes papers where soundscape is perceived as a mix of real-world recordings and digitally generated sound. Our cohort analysis showed that the most common bigrams are ambient soundscape, domestic soundscape, and nature soundscape. The list of all bigrams aligns with our previous findings that the term is applied in a broad sense. Ambient soundscape is used both to refer to an acoustic environment, for example for mixed reality systems where the audio is used for navigation, and as a composition, for example to provide background for a primary activity. When designing soundscapes, it's argued by Schaefer that designers should engage with real-world acoustic environments in which the intervention will take place. We found 19 papers in which methods for documenting an existing acoustic environment were utilized. This mostly involved audio recordings. 3 papers included asking participants to observe their environment to later reflect on it. When looking at the papers chronologically, we found that audio recordings are the most utilized tools in recent papers, whereas earlier work mostly includes methods such as sound walks and interviews. Due to the audio-focused nature of soundscape research, supplementary material that goes beyond a textual description of the audio material is often highly helpful. We found that 62 papers include a video in which the study soundscape is presented. These videos are most often included as supplementary material, but they're also shared as links to YouTube, Vimeo, and other platforms. We propose that researchers investigating or designing soundscapes include a position on soundscape theory. We summarize the key aspects of each conceptualization in this table. Within a conceptualization of soundscape as an acoustic environment, soundscapes are perceived as perceptual constructs that emerge when a listener hears sounds from a physical environment. It's not merely the physical act of hearing itself, but rather the experience of all sounds in combination with each other. A key phenomenon is embodiment, as is also essential for sonic interaction design. Within the conceptualization of soundscapes as compositions, soundscapes are viewed as a collection of sounds that are organized in an intentional way and played to listeners. The end goal is an auditory experience which either supports a primary activity or is the primary activity itself. Based on our review of the literature, we identify a number of gaps and best practices in prior and current research. First, making the definition on which the work is grounded explicit to the reader will help position the intended contribution. Second, reporting the characteristics of the environment establishes a common foundation for researchers and designers, which can be further utilized in investigating listeners' experiences. Third, engaging participants in recalling memories of sounds can be a highly beneficial approach to designing richer interactions with sound. Fourth, we urge researchers to include audio or video material with their submission to illuminate the textual descriptions of the soundscape. Fifth, we argue for more public sharing of research results. With this, I would like to say thank you for watching this presentation, and please reach out for any questions or discussion.